All right, guys, welcome back. Here's your alpha cast for November. Me and Scott here again. We're gonna do some of the questions you guys asked for and a little bit of our own thing. We're not trying to rush through this by any means, but kind of a time of the essence thing. So we just wanted to get it to you guys as fast as we could. So, Scott, you wanted to start with limit it. Go for it.
Yeah, so we've stated in numerous media places just how a little overblown the limited rounds are during Energon Invitational, but at the same time, I think there's a set of rules you need to understand when going into it. Because I think a lot of what's going to happen is people are going to be elated or disappointed with their pools. And I think they just need to understand what it takes to actually build one correctly and be even keel throughout those rounds. So, I first of all, I truly believe that building the battle deck is really easy. If you look at the videos we posted, I mean, there's times where I'm just sorting the cards and then bam, it's just 25. Not intentionally, it is that way because the cards you're not playing are just super bad.
Right.
So that's pretty easy. I will say with the battle deck, to me, the most important cards in the battle deck are your greens and your blacks. To me, the other colors don't even matter.
Yep.
Because you won't have enough of those colors to matter. So the big thing I do want to say now, a lot of them are uncommon in Wave in Siege 1, but are commons in Siege 2, especially from the black perspective. But the dual pip, orange black and blue black, are obviously all very good. You should always be running them regardless. And I guess if there were technically green with those colors as well, I just don't think there's very many. There's a few here and there that I'd be running all of those also regardless of what they actually do, but they're all playable. I can say that.
Except
The
for
big thing you want to
Decipher.
what? No, even Decipher is still a strafing run if they have a secret action. I'd still play it.
Okay. Fair.
Yeah. The key is, as the game goes along, and we'll get to characters, which is the more important part, after the battle deck, you can pretty much get yourself to a point where, depending on the card draw you have available to you, especially if you have card draw on some of your characters, you can almost get it to a point where all you have left in your deck are the greens that you're constantly cycling because you're just playing them and they're going right back in, and blacks. So you can pretty much get yourself to a point where you're just piercing for 2 to 3 every single attack, regardless of your opponent's defense. Which again we'll get into with the characters, but it just makes it really easy to cycle these actions and these upgrades very easily just back into the deck. And that's something I do want to mention is there are a lot of turns where you just don't have a great play. The biggest example I can think of is reprocess. You're I don't really feel like reprocessing that, whatever it is. But what you need to understand is you only have a 25 card deck, which means that reprocess is going to show up again within a turn or two, guaranteed.
Yeah.
So you might as well just kill whatever it is and cycle the reprocess right back into your deck. It not having a relevant combat pip color doesn't really matter because, again, like we said, a lot of your deck isn't going to have that anyway. So it's just the fact that you are picking up an action and playing an upgrade as often as possible for any value that is just going to keep cycling cards back into your deck. Things like Crowbar, obviously, scrap themselves. Things like, any of the double black actions that you just play and get them right back in your deck because they have more value in the deck than they have in your hand.
Right. I mean, dual wield might be a little less, but contingency is still just a +2 attack at the end of the day.
Yeah, and dual wield, you can have situations where you just build 2 upgrades.
Yeah, you totally could. Yeah.
Yeah, I would play any double black I had. I would play any, if you had Plunder, I would play that as a star card, for example.
Yeah, triple
you're
black
just
is
trying
just
to
good.
Yeah, you're just trying to get to a point where basically you're swinging for guaranteed damage, period.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we can talk about this. I get it's all symbiotic, but with the way the rules changed, it's a lot easier now to go 4 wide and more advantageous, I would say, to go 4 wide than it was a week ago.
Right.
Because of the extra time rule where
you get more attacks.
Essentially, yeah, all your guys get to act, basically. So what that means is even little guys are doing little guaranteed amount of damage that your opponent isn't getting. And so if you come down to a damage dealt situation, it's going to be an advantage of the wider deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, assuming you don't have, like, I don't know, like, you're not getting smacked by, like, some 10 power guy or something like that. Like,
right,
whatever.
like it's like one of those situations where, like, as long as, like, your big guy in this scenario can take more than a hit, then, like, and it protects all the guys with stealth, etc., like, you are going to inevitably get more attacks off, which is more guaranteed damage.
Yeah, I just the thing is about limited, it's different than constructed, and I think this is something that, like, is just not easy to understand because it just doesn't come into play in constructed very often. Is just that you actually are cycling through your deck.
Mm-hmm.
And so...
And it's not like you have to do extracurricular activities to do that. It just happens.
Right, so you're actually, like, setting up your deck. Like, there were if you've played other games in the past, like, way back in the day, like the Star Wars Decipher game, and, like, games like that were reliant on setting up your deck for different value. Like, that's some of those skills, if you've played other games like that in the past. Again, I don't know which other games I've done it. That's the one that comes to mind. You could... Some of those skills come into play in limited that really don't play in constructed all that often. So on the character front, which is, I guess, the more important part. You there?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. So the thing about Pierce is, so we already talked about going wider.
Mm-hmm.
So that's now an option. So I don't know if it should be the default strategy, but I would, unless you have some very, very powerful characters, and I'll talk about them in a second, I would be, like, if your pool is very, it's not mediocre. I just mean that you don't have any singular standout characters that cost over 11 stars or more.
Right.
You should be looking to go 4 wide. The most important stat in limited is hit points.
Yeah.
And the Siege 2 hit points, along with the Siege 1, but especially Siege 2 hit points, are just off the chart.
Yeah.
So so, like, a lot of your 7 drops have, like, double-digit health. A lot of your like, medium-sized drops have very large health pools. And no matter what you do, you're only still getting in there for, like, usually like 4 or 5 is, like, a big hit in limited. So it's not like this 17 thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, like some of the bigger characters can get to, like, a 9 or a 10, but, like, that's, like, the cap most of the time.
Yeah, and it's, like, tough. And it's tough to do consistently. Unless you have, like, a weapon or something like that attached. So, like, and then obviously those characters are going to be, like, very good also. So, like, you're going to be wanting to slant your deck in that way anyway. But I would like, I remember I played a game where my opponent had, like, a really good character, but then really wasn't able to kill the medium character very easily at all. And so the medium character just stayed around for, like, a long time and was, like, had to become the target because I wasn't going to get through to the big guy until the little guy was, like, the medium guy was, like, I don't know, like, blocking for him, essentially.
Right.
So if you have, you can don't ever go too wide. That's just suicide. The one thing to keep in mind, so because hit points are important, attack is what it is. You don't want, like, abysmal numbers of it. Built-in bold is really good. Defense is almost irrelevant. Because we talked about earlier where you're just not going to have that many blues in your deck. The thing that makes defense important and constructed is that you also have blues in your deck, so it adds to them. Right. But in limited, you really can't depend on them. So your defense starting point is going to be, like, a lot of times the ending point.
Right.
So unless you have 3 defense or more, your opponent may just not have double blacks that they can flip in every combat. To me, you should basically assume that you're going to be Pierce, like, 2'd most combats. So therefore, 2 defense does nothing.
Right.
So if you're on the fence about playing a character because it only has 1 defense or has 0 defense, but it has a decent amount of hit points, it's the same exact thing to me as playing it when it has 2 defense. Like, it really doesn't mean much at all.
Yeah. For
now, once you have like
the
3
percentage
or
of the
4,
time.
right? Once you have like 3 or 4, it's a different story because there are a decent amount of static armors.
Yeah.
So starting out with a 3 and then getting to a 4 is a lot more than starting out with a 2 and getting to a 3, which most decks should be able to do. There aren't a lot of, I don't even know if there are any 4 defense characters naturally.
I don't think so.
Yeah, and there's a decent amount of 3 defense characters. So like those are okay. Like, you can pause with them. Like, they're a reason to go that faction, but like, or that character. But like, realistically, anything 2 or below is exactly the same to me. Like, it's not going to save you enough damage over the long haul, assuming your opponents build their decks competently.
Yeah.
So I really wouldn't worry too much about that. Like, worrying about like, oh, Spinister only has 1 defense, or like Astro Train only has 1 defense, or something like that. Like, that's not the biggest deal in the world.
No.
So in terms of powerful characters, so pretty sure all the
Springer.
yeah. I mean, but really all the triple changers from this set are powerful.
They just give you options constantly.
Well, sort of.
Yeah.
There's a lot of flipping for value. That's another thing to keep in mind. Like, I remember my opponent of mine had a Mirage, and like, he just drew him extra cards like tremendously, like every single turn, because the other characters didn't need to flip.
Right.
Because you're pretty much just like flipping to the mode you want to be in, and then you're just done.
Right.
Especially if you're like a Micromaster or something like that, so you don't even need to flip, or you're a Battle Master.
Right.
So I think Astro Train's probably the weakest of them, because he just relies on having upgrades, and there's so many reprocessors floating around that's just easy to like. Because you're not going to have the collector upgrades. Like, you're not going to have more than 1 extra padding, or there's no attack drones, and etc. So it's going to be hard to keep the upgrades on him. So like, it's pretty much just his attack mode, and you can get that easier.
Yeah.
Without having to spend those stars. But like, what's his name? The Autobot like beach guy. I forget his son, whatever his name is. He's orange. I just forget his name. I never had him as a kid. He was like the orange triple changer. He's really good.
Sunstorm, right?
No, Sunstorm's the seeker. He's Sun something.
Sandstorm or something like that?
Sandstorm.
Okay.
Sandstorm, that's it.
Yeah.
So like, he attacks better against melee, defends better against range, which again we already talked about, doesn't really matter, and does a point of damage to specialist. So like, he's one where you're flipping different modes depending on what you're attacking. So that's really powerful. Springer's insane.
Yeah, Springer's bonkers.
Like, you should be flipping him back and forth to draw cards every single turn.
Yeah.
He leads you in a direction where you really don't even need like anything else.
He's just gigantic on top of that.
Yeah. Again, 16 health, 2 defense. So like, you're right on the border of the defense. You have a huge amount of health, and you have 6 attack, which is huge.
Yeah.
Like, to me, he's better than what most people consider like bomb rares. Like, I think he's better than. I'm not gonna like put things in order because we're not drafted. Just keep that in mind. That's why there's no pick order. But like, there's no reason you shouldn't be playing him. Like, you should always be playing him. Ape Face is fine. He has Focus 1 when like he's undamaged, and he has Bold 2, and again, Bold 2 just gets you more blacks.
Yep. So
Ape Face has just guaranteed damage written on him.
Yeah.
I think that's all of them. Yeah, 2 and 2.
Yeah.
That's it for the common ones of those. And then, like I said, like, all the medium-sized characters, like, your Smoke Screens of the world and things like that. Again, like, there's not a lot of direct damage, so like, you can expect that Safeguard is actually going to proc at least once.
Yeah.
I don't think it matters that much, because I don't think it's not going to be hard to take 3 damage.
Well, it's the same thing of like, what you said earlier, like how often are you going to really take a 10, so we're like, that ability is even going to matter. So it's like, that doesn't even really matter.
Right. I mean, you can change your attack order to make them vulnerable at different times, so that maybe it'll matter when they actually have plays, which is probably the smart way to go.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, the first thing you should do is, do I have any of these bomb characters? Do I have, like to me, like, the real bombs are like Siege 1, General Optimus, Siege 1 Starscream, Siege 1 like Megatron, Shockwave, like obviously some of these super rares, but like I guess pretty much any of the secret rares I guess would be bombs. Like across the board, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean Siege 2,
but yeah,
the Siege 2 Megatron's probably like
Siege 2
the
Megatron,
best one, but yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I would imagine any secret rare, but from the rare perspective, like I mean, I think you would play them. Like, you're not going to play your Omega Supreme parts, I don't think. But, like, you're going to play, like, you would probably play Jetfire if you had it and just play it with a 4 and a 5. Like,
yeah.
Because he's a lot of health to chew through. But his ability is not going to be as valuable. It's actually going to be more valuable from, like, the attacking with Black's perspective.
Yeah.
So it's really, I'm not gonna like. It's really hard to evaluate like each individual character because you're just not gonna have a choice between playing X or Y. It's just gonna be like, did I get this?
It's also simple. Like it's not like we played limited with every single rare and secret rare either. You know.
No, but my point is like it doesn't even matter because you're just gonna have it or you're not.
Right, right. Like if you get it, it's probably pretty easy to figure out. Like okay, this card's bonkers.
Yeah, I mean the big thing is just don't go too wide.
Yeah.
Because then like you can't defend. Like the whole point is like you should look at any time you're defending for a decent amount is like extra out of benefit. I guess the only other thing is like is Battle Masters. Like I guess I would just play almost every single one except for like even like Blowpipe is fine. Like Lionizer is not as good constructed, obviously. But what he allows you to do is see more cards. Like Aimless is way better than Lionizer because he just forces attacks into him, and his weapon has a static number on it instead
it has an actual attack stat.
Yeah. But I can't imagine I wouldn't play any Battlemaster I opened, especially the 7-drop ones. Like Fire Drive is a clear bomb. I can't imagine not playing any of the other ones. Like even Dazzle Strike.
Yeah, I mean,
like probably play.
Like they just turn into a +3 weapon at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Same thing. Like Nightstick is just a 2/1. Like all these cards are they're just good.
Yeah, and I would probably just play any of them, and I wouldn't let them influence my like weapon count or anything like that.
Yeah. Like
just play them all. Play them into each other. Like it doesn't matter. Yeah, I mean. Again, like I don't think there's a lot of decisions to be made except the really bottom end of the actions. The key is just like use them early and often because you're going to cycle through your deck and get them again, especially if they're green.
Yeah.
So like War of Attrition, just play it and then take the damage and then you'll get it like a turn later. Like it doesn't even matter.
It's just the fact is you'll probably play that card like 3 or 4 times throughout the game anyway.
Easily.
Yeah.
Like and the turns go so much faster. Like at the end when it's like 1-on-1 that like. And you're not actually doing damage, like it's
and
there's just way more turns.
And you're not Vince.
Right. Play faster because the games just take forever.
Yeah.
Force your opponent to play faster as well. It's pretty much it. I mean, just understand it's not constructed. Like you're not going for the big numbers. Like it's going to be very methodical. Like you're going to be playing methodically. You're going to be attacking methodically, defending methodically. Like it's a lot about the numbers that are written on the cards and not about the abilities, unless they influence combat. You should just expect to basically do an amount of damage equal to your attack minus their defense with no colors appropriately flipped.
It's like whatever your base attack is before you attack, just assume that's what you're doing minus their defense. It's not not like where it's like, oh, I have 7, but they're gonna flip 2 blues. No, like it's not like that. It's just whatever the numbers are, assume that's where you're gonna be, give or take 1.
Yeah, and because of the prevalence of blacks that are in the environment,
right?
Like being 2 over your opponent, like is the same thing as being even with your opponent. Right. So like you should suit up your guys that can get way over, and just allow your little guys to be even under because you should be able to flip enough blacks to where even if you're getting in for 1 or 2, it's more than you were going to get in anyway.
Right. Just pick here, pick there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of targeting, just kill guys off. I don't care who they are. Like, whoever is exposed, kill it.
Yeah, because you're taking away damage.
Yeah, and you're taking away turns.
Right, right.
So, just whoever they put out there, concentrate on, until it's dead.
Yeah.
Like to me, there aren't a lot of quote like wasted turns. Like just kill guys and you're fine.
Yeah.
Like don't waste actions you don't have to, but at the same time, don't spread damage for the sake of
Like, oh, this guy's
being
not
cute
good, so I
either.
don't care. I'm gonna
Right.
target the second guy. Like, no, like just get the first guy off and move on, because the longer you leave guys around, the more damage you're gonna take at the end of the day.
Yeah, because things like the Micromaster stealth becomes annoying. You
Right.
can't get to that guy.
Right.
So like, get to him when you can. Like,
Right. Like if they expose him, just he has like 5-6 health. Just get him off the board.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
So.
Only last thing I'll say is, like, for whatever reason, if you haven't played any limited yet, I definitely suggest trying to get some type of practice in. I know it definitely changed some of our thought processes with the one event that we did. So I have to say that definitely, try and get some games in.
And it's more in the playing than it is in the building.
Right.
The building is very easy from a battle card perspective, a little harder from a character perspective, but
maybe depends what you hope.
I mean, yeah, but it's definitely the play that is more important. Like you're just not used to like your guys being quote like this ineffectual, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Let's get into the meat and gritty of it. Our first question came from, I want to say, Miru. I correctly? Let me just make sure. Miru, I believe his name is in Discord. He's basically asking what our tier list is, or I would say like what is our like metagame prediction type scenario. I don't know if you consider them different or not.
No.
Yeah.
Fine.
So, we've talked about this a lot, obviously, and I think that at the end of the day, Dallas was influential, and even to some extent, Columbus was influential on Dallas. And in both of those, the finals had blasters and shockwaves. I think they're two very easy decks to import over from Siege 1 into Siege 2. I expect that they'll be the most popular decks of the event.
I would agree.
Yeah. And like to me, it's like, the list Kai that Kai played. He played Caliburst in the main deck. You probably don't play that guy in the main deck anymore, but it's very easy just to play a Sights for, as just an example, where it's an easy port over to a 6 that way. And if like you've been testing that deck and you don't know how to replace Caliburst, I would just replace it with Sights and move on.
Yeah, Sights on Shockwave is a lot harder to deal with than Caliburst on Shockwave.
Yeah, not to mention you don't really want the weapon anyway.
No, and it's batonzable, and
right.
This is the splash damage that you're going to gain from like playing at Springer and things like that. Just doesn't even matter to me.
Right. It's very, very minimal. Not to mention since they get to target it.
Yeah.
Like if you could target it, we could talk about that card, but Yeah. Blaster's the same way. I just feel that even the way Joel built his lists, playing Frenzy and stuff like that, I'm not sure that you'll see it that way, because like I still think the regular way is just as good. So, like I'm sure you'll see it because like that's what did well at the last event, but I wouldn't be shocked to just see regular old Blaster also with some med kits in it and moving on with life.
Yeah, I don't really know. Like I've talked about it in the past, but like the thing to understand is that there's an overall event metagame and there's a winners metagame.
Mm-hmm.
So when I talk about metagame in this sense, I mean literally the entire room.
Right.
If you ask me like what, and I don't have a concept of this, but like if you ask me like what the more in tune players were going to play, I probably have less of an idea of what that is.
Right.
Because they always seem to just show up with random stuff anyway, and I give them too much credit for playing decks that we've come up with, and they don't. So I can't really give that much credence either.
Yeah.
So to me, like, there's definitely going to be a decent portion of people that just play new cards, but that doesn't mean anything because they're going to fall into the camp of they're going to fall into one of these three camps. Like they're going to fall into the wide aggro, the emphasized aggro, or control. And like to me, Shockwave is just as viable of a control strategy as any other ones of the control strategies.
Yeah.
So like fighting against Octone or fighting against Astro Train or fighting against
Galaxy Prime
or Springer Control if that exists. Not that we made that. Like things like this to me are going to play out the same way, and Shockwave still has an advantage over some of them and a disadvantage to others because of his card draw and discard. So like he's still well positioned even fighting against those control decks. From a wide perspective, if people play patrol decks, like they're not much different than playing against Insecticons or anything like that. So like I still think there's going to be people playing Insecticons, even though I don't think it's very good. I still think there's going to be people playing wider decks, even though I don't think they're very good. I just think Blaster is superior to them because it can still fight against what I consider to be an uptick in control decks.
Yeah.
So
that's why I think Blaster will be, if not, maybe it won't be, but I think it should be the most played aggro deck at this current juncture because, like you said, like it just gives you game even against the control decks where like you're not supposed to have game.
Right. I mean, you can adjust a Blaster deck to play better against a control field. Like you can play Daring Counterattack main. You can even play like Bigger They Are main. Like things like that are going to have an impact. And you're still going to have like a better fire drive than other people.
Right.
So like you can definitely adjust the deck to take some of these things into consideration, and you're still getting 2 free plays.
Right.
Off the top, and you can even manipulate them with like incoming for the second one, for example. So like you're still getting an action phase advantage over your opponents. Yeah. So like you can just play with the deck a little bit if you really feel like things are going to shape up that way. I mean, like, the banning of multi-mission gear, like, and the elimination of the Daring Escape deck from the fast Daring Escape deck, like there's still like a slow, methodical draw your whole deck version, but
like it's still good. It's still out there, but it gives everybody in the room an attempt to counter it
through the battle deck, which they weren't able to do before.
Yeah, like it. You know, it makes your hijacks, your jam signals, your infiltrates. It makes all these cards viable at that point where before they just weren't.
Right.
So like as long as you're like dedicate a couple of your sideboard spots to it, or if you have any of those type of cards main deck, like any of them, like I think you're going to be safe if you can figure out how fast they're doing what they're doing, and I don't think it's going to be that complicated to figure that out.
It's not consistent, and even if like it's not only inconsistent where they can fizzle more often, but
it's weaker to more things also.
Yeah, but what it does do is it gives the control decks just more range, which it kept them in check a bit before. So I would just expect a more control heavy.
It definitely cannot win on your opponent's turn.
Yes,
I can tell you that much.
Yeah. Well, it can technically.
No, all right, it can't. All right, stop.
If you get really really lucky with field,
if you hit the 1% on fields and leaps, sure, go you.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't even tested them like in any real Wi-Fi, or maybe like Goldfish, but nothing like Wi-Fi.
No, not since the MMG ban.
Yeah, so at that point, I just expect there to be more control decks, although I don't. But that again is a winner's metagame thing, a overall event metagame thing.
Yeah, generally speaking, in big events, it's very common for the field to lean aggro because the control decks have to figure out how to combat the aggro. That's kind of how it is in most games. I don't think it's going to be any different here. I just think that a deck like Shockwave has proven to be at least good enough over and over again to where people can just gravitate. But I do believe, and I'm not taking any knocks at anybody, I do believe it's harder to play Shockwave correctly than it is to play Blaster correctly, which is why I still think if you're uncomfortable with one, you would just play Blaster, because sometimes Blaster does just kind of play itself.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just easier.
Yeah, there's just a lot more decision points in Shockwave at the end of the day.
Yep.
So, but I still think, for, like you said, in that winner's mindset, that people are going to look at the Shockwave list and they're going to go, okay, I'm going to make XYZ change, and then this is my Shockwave list, and I think I'll be okay, blah, blah, blah. Like, I think that's going to happen plenty. And then, like, some of these other characters we're talking about, like, the Octone deck that was a top 8 of Dallas. Like, that deck to me also doesn't look like a very easy deck to play, and there's a lot less information on the deck. So I don't think that's a deck that just anybody's going to pick up and play. The Too Tall Jetfire deck is kind of the same situation. Like, I don't think anyone's just going to pick up and play that deck. And then Galactic Prime, like, that didn't do... I don't even know if anyone played it in Dallas. It definitely didn't top 8. I didn't see it on stream all day, so that's another one that could just be hiding and people are trying to figure it out. But if people are trying to figure it out, they might not be able to in time, and they're just going to go with Shockwave if they're that type of player.
Yeah. Yep.
My overall thoughts. Let's see. I think we covered most of the Nate question here about Shockwave. What are your thoughts on Kai not playing Handheld Blaster?
I think it's a mistake in an aggro-based field.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're definitely right.
I think it's a mistake overall. I just don't think that I think control decks win by getting one giant attacker up to very high levels, and if you don't have enough doubles to defend that, then your 17 hit points are going to get eaten in short order.
Right.
Whereas
like,
if you have more of them,
like you need to have those random turns where you're like double, double, double.
Yeah, and if you're playing Hidden Fortification, it really makes sense.
Right. Like you just like Hidden Fortification literally sometimes goes, okay, what was your flip? Take one. Like that can literally just happen. So it's like, what are you gonna do? All right. So that was
there was a question about double. I guess we can segue into that if you want. Like somebody asked if it was still worth it to play them. Right?
Yeah, it was part of the same question. It was about if we think because of the way the battle cards have filtered out, if we believe you can easily just take out handheld blasters and improvise shields. I'm gonna go with no. Basically all the time.
Yeah.
Especially for orange decks. I can't fathom taking them out in the orange decks.
But, no, because I agree.
Yeah, if like the moment you take Improvise Shield out of orange decks, it just takes a percentage away of actual ways, like actual outs in a game. Like sometime your out in a game against a blue deck is literally to go, well, I need to flip 2 double oranges. So if there's only 3 of them to start in your deck, your odds of ever doing that, or even they just don't exist. So it's like I understand the card's unplayable, but that doesn't matter. Like the fact is, every time you flip, it's +2 attack, and you just can't. There's nothing in the game that says +3 attack with triple orange. So it's like you just can't replace that.
I mean, if you're not playing a Battle Master, to me, Press the Advantage isn't that attractive either.
Right.
I mean, not Press the. I mean, Peace or Tyranny isn't as
right, but
like sexy either. So I mean, like you're still playing that. So like,
right. I mean, like there's still like fringe cases in which you do play the card, especially like bugs will still always play that card type scenario, and like fine. The 5-wide decks like that we've seen people kind of talking about, like they only have like one target to PTT, but like chances are if they can take that target, they're going to. So, but
it's just that like to me that's just as like quote unplayable as Improvise Shield is.
Yeah,
like,
no, I agree.
To me, in a lot of lists, not in all, but in a lot of lists, like especially if you're not playing a Battle Master, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree that they're definitely better with Battle Masters. But yeah, other than that, the checkpoint is way too good. We're not talking about cutting that card, that's for sure.
Yeah. No chance. And then to me, I never cut Handheld Blaster, but that's just me.
Yeah, no, I think now it's like one of those things where like if maybe the meta does shift to some type of Black Pierce thing, then yeah, maybe you don't need that card anymore. But other than that, if that doesn't exist, or if it's not good enough yet because there's not enough playable Black Pips, etc., then it's one thing to have 3 Improvised Shields in your deck and they're not very good. It's another thing to have like 5 different double blacks in your deck and they all suck. So it's like, that's the argument to be made. Like we're talking about 3 cards versus 15, Oh.
I mean, what I would do, and again, if you listen to Tech Talk, I went over this at length, like about the marathon day. Like, I would start with them in your deck and just have 3 cards in your sideboard that, regardless of like at least 3 cards in your sideboard that are just like straight upgrades to anything else you're playing. So that way, if like you really want to side them out in like a certain matchup because like you're playing against Pure Stack or something like that, like, and you don't really have like a dedicated answer to that, then you're just like, okay, I'll just side in, I don't know, like 3, I don't know, like random
espionage,
yeah, like something like that,
random,
like
random generic good card.
Yeah, like you should have enough like pinpoint sideboard cards where they're always going to be upgrading and they can be something you can cut. But like even if you don't, like just side them out.
Right.
Like, but I would start with them in play because your matchups against aggro decks are going to get a lot worse.
Yeah.
And
I
just don't.
I also would most certainly main deck the hidden fortifications also.
Yeah, I don't think we can adequately guess the metagame enough to make fundamental changes to pips index, unless you like the only way I can see that happening is like we want to say like I'm gonna run steady shot instead of leap into battle, or I'm gonna run fight for position over supercharge. Like that to me is more of a sideways upgrade than I'm gonna cut my doubles and run this like pinpoint card instead.
Right, I agree. Yeah. I think the last question you got off Patreon, which I will attempt to go back and find real quick from you. Guy asked about combo without MMG. Deck's going to be.
I mean, it exists. Somebody just posted something on Facebook. Like the guy that top forward Gen Con just posted about like again the slower versions and things like that. It's just that
same thing.
They're just more.
You can. It's a bad game to watch, but you can go back and watch Wreck and Rule's video from like week 1 of Siege 2. Like Joe had a blue cards deck, which is kind of the idea that we're getting along. It's just the blue cards that draws a bunch of cards throughout the game, and then eventually just daring escapes a couple times.
Yeah, there's that specialist deck they posted also, which I don't think is as good, but like you can just basically like try to draw your whole hand, and so at that point, like I guess what I'll say is like we went through a series of it was like 7 or 8 cards that we thought were viable options to stopping it.
Yeah,
and it was like Jam Signals, Hijack, Caliburst, Lord Megatron,
Nightbird.
Turbo Board, Nightbird,
Hijack.
all these things. Yeah, and it was like the only one that was at all viable to stop it was Turbo Board.
Yeah.
And now, to me, all those other answers have gained.
Right. So it's really about playing the one that best matches your deck.
Yeah, and obviously, like the most powerful ones are going to be like Hijack or the characters.
Right.
Like, can you certainly sideboard Calibers? Yes. Can you certainly still sideboard Turbo Board? Sure. Can you sideboard Hijack? Certainly. Can you sideboard Jam Signals? Like, can you sideboard Lord Megatron as your 12 drop if you're playing like to go to 2 tall? Yes. Like these are all viable things to do. That are just way more viable now than they were before.
Yeah, they actually have weight.
Yeah, I mean, like, but to me at this point, like if you're gonna play Shockwave, you have access to all this stuff now. So I don't understand how like they can possibly fight through a sea of Shockwaves at all.
Yeah, it's definitely not a meta for against Shockwave, without a doubt.
I mean, they're gonna have more access to Signal. They're gonna have more access to Hijack, and like there's absolutely no reason not to run those cards, like either one main deck and X in the sideboard or X in the sideboard, and just have access to more of them, because that's just the advantage of a character like Shockwave that it gives you. Having access to more cards off the top is just more access to secret actions, and like there's so many powerful ones now that like. Also having access to these and on color a lot of times is just gonna like be super advantageous, because like Jam Signal is not for countering the daring escape, it's for countering the brainstorm. then like now that they don't have multi-mission gear and you're able to counter a brainstorm, like
the game's just over.
yeah, like there's just too many things that have to go right for them
Yeah.
every single turn now as it is.
Yeah.
And any one of these pieces, I don't know about the viability.
Well, it's the same thing with the confidence. Like even now, infiltrate counting the confidence is good enough because they don't have an additional way to get an action. So
Right.
just like literally just that simple. Like
Yeah, and then like hijack has way like I don't know if these things stopping it once though means you prevent them from going off again. I don't know like
No.
I think that the pieces are just like vulnerable. That's the other thing. Like
Right.
the pieces are just like countering one brainstorm. If they don't have another one in hand, they can't go off again next turn because they won't be able to gain the action.
Right.
So I mean, if you really think it's gonna be viable, you can play Battlefield Scan, for example. That's one example.
Right.
Which I think just has more weight now than it used to.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's just easier answers now that everybody has access to. Like, you don't have to, like, play a 7 and a 4 with Shockwave because you have to play Turbo Board.
Right. Like, literally,
But I'm
that's
not
like,
saying that
that's like,
Caliber's is good enough. But...
so the Battlefield Scan would be, in my opinion, like, the perfect blaster card.
Yeah.
Because, like, you can just try and see it, but even if you see it on turn 1, you can literally just, like, end the game on turn 1 kind of thing.
Yeah, like, the point is they're just, like, way more reliant on their pieces.
Yeah.
So, that's the way I see it.
And like I said, the Brainstorms and the Confidences of the world that they absolutely need to play or have to get lucky with Field Communicator or Leap of Faith type thing. It's just, if you counter one of those two cards, it's over. If you play a Hijack off an Equipment Enthusiast, it's over. Like, it's just all these things that it's so easy for you to know when they're going to go off that you're like, all right, I'm just going to play this card this turn, and I just stop them for a turn. And then, it is a matter of if you can capitalize on that turn that you stopped, but the fact is that you'll have, you should have more than one way to do it. Like, if you're going to play Hijacks, you're going to play 3 Hijacks. So you just make sure you just road up on your Hijacks. Like, it's an auto card that you have to get when you see it.
Yeah, and you just have to know, like, if you were practicing before against it and you thought any of these things were viable and you were like, I'm going to hold my jam signals to only counter brainstorms and things like that, like, then you now just have more of the ability to do that. Like, remember, you don't have to just like Hijack you have to actually use right away, but like it still screws up their entire turn. Like,
do you have to trigger it right away?
Yeah, because it says reveal when they flip their second card for the turn, so you can't hold for like just the enthusiasts.
Okay, fair.
It won't do anything because you're not actually able to reveal it. But like you can hold jam signals like for something. You can hold for something if you.
Yeah, you can hold those all day.
Were there other questions?
That was the last one.
All right.
So, unless you want to add something specific, we can reiterate the beat, the happy hour on Sunday.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the only other thing is we charge us a lot of money for ourselves. You can't beat everything.
No.
I think that if you've been practicing and you ask the right questions and you understand your matchups and you've played on the other side of other things, like I think you're gonna be like better off than most competition because they've only been able to practice against their locals or against stock lists and things like that. They won't have been on the other side of things. They just won't have access to as good of information. I mean, even if you're not running a list that we put out there or we assisted you with.
Yeah, I mean, like, just to cut. Like, I've talked to a couple different guys this last week that just sent me lists, and we worked through them. Same thing. Like, if you don't particularly like any of the lists that we have currently, there are more coming in the coming days. Just message any one of us, like, say, hey, what do you, pick our brain about this, pick our brain about that. I've had a couple different people discuss decks that we haven't posted about. So, keep doing that.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is, like these former meta decks are still viable.
Right.
Um,
100%.
so like if you're comfortable with Blaster, Shockwave, Aerial Bots, Insecticons, X, like whatever your like cards, like whatever you're like, if you've been playing these decks for a long time and you're like, I didn't have time to assess the Siege 2 impacts to these things, like, I mean, like I wouldn't roll in there with a Mercenary deck, for example. But like if you don't have practice with it, but I mean, you can rely on a lot of these old strategies, just updating some of the battle cards to reflect, and maybe even some of the cards reflect like what I consider to be a more control-based meta.
Yeah.
But I think the big thing to take away is like not to sound, well, I guess there's no reason not to sound this way, but like you're not going to see better put together decks than you're seeing in these deck techs. Like go watch other deck techs and let me know if how many of these cards you see not in their decks in play sets of, like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like we're just not going to be playing bad cards.
Right.
So
I mean, like it's even in the littlest of simplest things. Like I'll go back to Kai Shockwave deck again. He has a 1 of Vaporize in his deck. I cannot fathom a reason in the world why that's not reprocess.
Yeah, we practiced yesterday, and the only reason I lost was because I switched the Vaporizer to reprocess.
Right, and there was there was just every game. It's like I take this reprocess. There's no way of knowing you would have ever had Vaporize. So literally, that one card change was enough to change a matchup type situation.
Yeah, and if you look, like, I haven't built a control deck without a Bashing Shield and without a Baton.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And, like, without a across the board either.
I think it's in every one of our list, yeah.
I mean, it's not like the best card ever, like,
no.
But it does exactly what you want it to do, and I think Smelt is in every single one of those decks also.
In some of them, reprocess has replaced it, but not in all of them.
Okay, I mean, some of them is like one of each. A lot of
them. Right. Like one of them might not have like Baton, for example, but they'll have like a Smelt.
Yeah, I mean, you can't give up on the ability to like kill 2 upgrades in one turn, which you can by playing the upgrade and action.
No, I know.
And reprocess just gives you like there's just a lot of times where like the character's not damaged.
Yeah.
Or the 2 health doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
You know, I mean, it does at times, but it doesn't at a lot of others. So
I find it most of the time it's like they put it on, like, you know, if you're removing an armor, it's like, all right, they're going to armor up the guy they haven't attacked with yet, which means you haven't dealt damage to him yet, which means you just get to reprocess and lose nothing whatsoever and then smack him in the face.
Yeah, like if you continue to run only ramming speed and vaporize,
you're behind the curve.
Like Sights is going to ruin you all day long.
Yeah.
Like that's just what's going to happen. Like Sights, and then if somebody for some reason plays a main deck turbo board, like even that's going to gain advantage, like throughout the game. Like it's going to gain incremental advantage by playing free cards. But like Sights is just going to destroy you all day long because you have no way of interacting with Action Shield, Enforcement Batons, and like ramming speed / vaporize.
Like even in that world where, you know, you reprocess a Sights on a Shockwave that has like 7 damage on it, I assure you that Sights represents more than 2 damage for certain.
There's I mean, even just getting attacked too,
right.
So I mean, yeah,
right.
Sure.
For 100%, that Sights represents way more than the 2 damage you're about to heal that Shockwave for, guaranteed.
Yeah, and depending on their list, it can represent damage on both sides.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, for sure. I mean, like, yeah, no doubt about that. And like, there's a lot of like, you know, acute reflexes represents more than what it reads. You know, like
because it's attack and defense.
Yeah, like if you're playing a bold base aggro deck or a tough base control deck, like obviously gyro represents a lot more than the +1 it has. You know, like a force field when you don't have a bashing shield obviously represents more than the 2 health you're giving them.
Yes, 100%.
Like, you know,
100%.
You know, it's just too ubiquitous not to just run it. And all these other decks I see are just like running like multiple, like, oh, I got to run my 2 vaporize, or I got to run my 2 ramming speeds. And I'm just like, I haven't wanted to run ramming speeds since day 1. Like, why am I going to run it now when there's clearly better options?
Yes. Yes.
like
almost since the invention of Smelt, we've given up on these cards pretty much. And even Smelt
yeah.
isn't like a guarantee. It's just like, well, it's still better because it's green. I can get it whenever the hell I need it to.
Yeah. I mean, the only other advice I can give generally for John is just to play methodically and faster than you, and force your opponents to play at a reasoned pace, because people are going to be nervous. People are going to be whatever.
Yeah, you don't want to be going to time every round type thing, and I'm not telling anyone to rush an opponent, but like, if you do see an opponent like one or two turns in a row take a pretty long amount of time, it's fine if you go, hey, listen, I want you to speed up the pace a bit because I don't want to have to play for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you're not being a bully, none of those things. Like, it's just a matter, especially if you're on the control mirror type thing, and you know the matchup, and you've tested the matchup, and you know what you're supposed to be doing. Like, don't give up too much time to your opponent with one card in his hand trying to make a decision. Like, I see it all the time. Like, they have one card in their hand. There is not much of a decision to be made. So, that's just stuff that I would look out for in general. The last thing I'm going to say, because it did come up in chat, please, for the love of Christ, don't play 41 cards in your deck. I guarantee you, every single one of us will take a moment to look at your deck and help you cut a card. It will not be complicated. Don't do it. I don't care what deck you're playing. I don't care how many cards you draw. Play 40 cards in your deck. Cool.
Yeah, because if your deck has card draw in it or is based on bold and tough, like, you're playing those to get to the cards you want to get to, not to.
There's always going to be a best card.
Not to.
There's always going to be a card that's better than the other one. One of those 41 cards is not good enough to be in the main deck. That's a fact.
We have sideboards for a reason.
Right.
Use them.
Right.
I honestly, like, I wish I could give you more sideboarding advice. I just can't right now because I'm not done it on my own.
It's not even that. It's a matter of it's very, very complicated to teeter the ladder of what are people going to play, what am I bad against, and what does it matter altogether. Like we were talking about it today, like overwhelming advantage. I think there has been a ton of talk about overwhelming advantage and all these different versions of it. People are going to play that deck. Like we've talked about it today. It's like, does that mean we have to play cards like Disarm? Do we have to play cards like Take Cover? Maybe if people are going to play that deck and it's like, I don't know, let's just say 10% of the meta, like in 10% of the meta in 6 rounds, there's a good chance you play at least one of them. So in that match, if that card just 100% stops them, then it's probably worth dedicating a sideboard slot to it.
Yeah.
So, if you think that you're worried about the trick combo and it's just that simple of playing a couple disarms or a couple take covers in your sideboard, like stupid simple little things like that are good enough. Playing more reprocesses, playing more bashings, playing more improvised shields. Like, in my opinion, the bashing shield is the worst card in the matchup because like they have the hunker down. It's always going to get their armor back. So you actually kind of want to leave the armor on. You don't want to just give it to them type scenario. But, if they're smart, they're always going to play their armor first anyway. But that's, in my experience, like the bashing shield's the worst one of everything.
Yeah, try to find answers that have more universal use. So, like, if you're worried about, like, for example, like, if you think a combo deck exists and you want to play Hijack, because any combo is going to be basically draw a lot of cards, like, it's also going to have a play against Springer.
Mm-hmm.
If you're worried about overrolling advantage and you want to play Disarm, it also has play against Astro Train.
Mm-hmm.
It also has play against Dream. Like, again, these are not, like, super popular decks.
It even has play. It even has play against Shockwave. In fairness,
right.
And like even like the Galaxy Prime decks, for example, like Disarm's good against them too. Like if you're like, I take away your 2 energy packs, your Disarm just ate at them. Like it's not a joke. It's just the fact. It's like, it's not bad.
Yeah.
So. It is like the niche things like that is like I definitely would try to include some version of those cards in general. It's the same thing with like Gyro Blaster. Like it's the same argument. Like if you know Gyro Blaster is going to hose you because you're playing a tough control deck, then make sure you have your reprocesses. Like make sure you have the answer for it.
Yeah, I would just like the reason why all my decks have Baton, Bashing Shield, Reprocess is because those 10 sideboard slots are very valuable to me. Like, if I'm like I'm gonna play Disarm, like I can't just play one Disarm
Right.
because there's no treasure hunt for abilities.
Right.
So like you have to
And
play
there's no
at least
green that reads what Disarm does
right,
in any fashion.
right,
And it's another thing
right.
about you playing the greens main. It's just in every matchup you're gonna have good and bad cards, where the greens are always what they are, so you can easily ditch your improvised shields, ditch your handheld blasters. Like it's so easy to get rid of those for any one of these good green cards that will have value throughout the game.
Yeah, I mean this is why like I'm not super high on like infiltrate and jam signals because like
Yeah, they're
they
just
don't
linear.
they don't yeah they don't have as much universal use.
Yeah.
Like just think about ways that you can gain advantage over more than one deck because you're so limited on.
Right.
I know like 10 out of 40 if you played Magic is the same as 15 out of 60, but like it's really not. Like because if you want to play a playset of something,
it doesn't feel that way.
Yeah, it's like 30% is like dedicated to whatever.
Yeah.
And
it's
a lot of times
it's also very unlikely that like you play 2 of a card in the main deck and you're gonna play a third in the sideboard. Like that doesn't seem to be a common thing either.
yeah, and if you want to play a character that's not the same star cost, like
Yeah.
if you want to play a linear character, like let's just say I'm not saying this, but let's just say you were playing like I don't know, like a 9, like your deck was like 980, let's just say, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna sideboard in Turbo Board or Calibers. Like, unless you want your deck to be inefficient, you have to have star cards in your sideboard as well.
Yep.
So like, again, that's why I continue to advocate like the best thing to do is to go down in characters. But if that's not possible or not viable, then like try to find another character on cost because that way, like, I mean, it shouldn't make that big of a deal, but like, it just doesn't feel right when you're not playing 25 stars somehow in your deck.
Right.
So, like I wouldn't want to sideboard like any more than like 1 or 2 star cards if possible.
Yeah, like
So,
if you're going down like that many, I still don't know if I could commit that many slots to just star cards.
yeah. So like Ultra Magnus Armor, here you go. You're going in. Like, you know,
Like if we go back to the aerial bots example, like if you're gonna play aerial bots and you're gonna go down, you've decided that Turbo Board was your only shot, like you're not gonna play 4 star cards. Like that's not gonna happen. So it's just an example.
Yeah. So like again, Ultra Magnus Armor coming in. So getting it done. So
yeah, that's fair. Last thing I can say is, we're gonna be there probably all day Friday. I know me and Scott are gonna be there for a short amount of time on Thursday, just to pick up our media badges and stuff like that. Definitely come by, say hi, all that fun stuff. If you need any tips and help on Friday, hit us up. We'll be available.
yeah, if you're not queued yet, let us know.
Yeah, if you're not queued yet, we definitely have a plan for that. We have a deck for you for those events.
Yeah.
I'll try and get that deck tech up very soon. Let's say that much, because I think it is a good option for LCQs.
Yeah, if anybody's in that situation, I don't want to spend too much time here because I know a lot of people probably just aren't. But like, to me, like we kind of just brainstormed like what a strategy for that would be. Yeah. It's not going to be cheap. But if you really want to play, like I have suggestions as to how I would approach the day.
Yeah.
So
I agree. So if you're in that box, then definitely hit us up and we'll let you know where we're at with that idea, because we already have at least one player that's going to be on that, maybe another player on top of that are in that box that they join in for the LCQs and they're trying to get queued. So if you're amongst those people, then just hit us up and we'll give you the information you need.
Yeah, we brainstormed ways to take care of it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Scott, I think that's the end of our AlphaCast. It's safe to say we'll be back here in a couple weeks, discussing everything Energon.
Yeah, and as usual, please let us know whatever you want. Again, we're here for you, but we have to know what you want to know. So.
Yeah, same thing. Like the questions don't have to come in when I make a post in Alpha Trion chat about questions. Like if you have a question, just ask it. Let's get that chat going. Yeah. We're a week out. This is recording on Monday night. You guys are gonna get this Monday night. I'm gonna post it in an hour or something like that. So, just let it run. Let's have that chat active this week. Let's get everyone on the same page, and let's have a good event.
Yeah, and it's just easier for us to speak. So like I said, like Dan said, like we're going down there Thursday. We have a dinner reservation at like 7 o'clock, but like we'll be around the area picking up our badges and stuff like that if you want to talk then, and we'll be around pretty much. I mean, we have an interview at 10 o'clock in the morning on Friday, so we'll be there all day Friday.
Right, and I'm not putting myself on blast, but I'm like off this entire week, so like I can even really get on the phone with somebody if someone really wants to talk through it. Like, I'm available.
Yeah, all we ask is pass on good information, not like the information, but the ability to gain the information you found valuable. So
yeah, that's really all we can ask for. But definitely hit us up. If you have any type of questions, anything at all, just hit us up, and we'll do our best to answer and get you guys whatever you guys need /want. All right.
Yep.
Until next time, guys.
Thanks. Yep. See ya.